Hello there and welcome to another edition of What's the Word in association with Ladbrokes. I'm Tom Malone and this week I'm joined by Johnny Ward, Brendan Duke and of course Shane Mann as well from our sponsors Ladbrokes, who came very close to getting up the treble last week as well, Shane.
Yeah, I think sending out that tweet, Tom gave it a kiss of death somehow. Total Recall just never got going from an early stage, and I knew my fate fairly early on.
I think you're forgiven when the third leg of your treble is the Grand National and lets you down.
Yeah, I think so.
You get a pass on that. Looking forward to a brilliant week of racing upcoming over the course of the week as well. Our Punchestown will have a show every day, and we'll even be down there on location as well. So a little treat for you there. Looking forward to that week.
Definitely, yeah.
You've had a little look. Any couple of horses? Anything standing out for you in that card, or any horse in particular you're looking forward to? Yeah, Punchestown. Yeah.
I like Saldier if he goes for the 4-year-old hurdle. I thought he ran really well at Ferryhouse. I think he's getting better, and he's a decent price anti-post. And obviously Sam Crow. I mean, I think he's going to run in the senior hurdle. I think he'll take on Mellon and possibly Min. Because I think they want to find out where they're at with him. Yeah. And possibly they want to help Gordon win the title as well.
It's a bit of a shot to nothing as well, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Why not have a pop?
If he takes on Mellon, and if he takes on Mellon, he'll be favourite. I think. What are they going to glean from running him against novices? Yeah, he's got a lap. Like. I think if he wins that well, they might think about going hurdling next season. If he wins it well, they might be excited about going chasing. But at least it'll tell them where they're at over 2 miles as well. Because it's
a big pot as well.
Big pot. Gordon has $500,000 in front, but it's not over.
Yeah, Brendan, you looking forward to Punchestown? You've got a fairly epic week or so planned, don't you?
Yes, I do, Tom. Yes, I do. I plan to go racing from 7 consecutive days.
You're like Shackleton.
Unprecedented.
Well, I wouldn't say it's unprecedented, but it would definitely be worth a T-shirt, wouldn't it? I survived, whatever. Yeah.
Are you single, are you?
No.
You're not. Despite the 7 days. We'll get back to you in a week.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Anything in particular you're looking forward to at Punchestown?
Well, I suppose Duvan. I mean, the champion chase was an epic now, but just at the end, he had a slight hollow feeling because some of the jumps he put in down the back were just sensational. He tanked through the race. It looked like the Duvan of old. And I suppose it wasn't that serious an injury he had, so he could come back. And if he does, very exciting horse, obviously.
Shane, anything you look forward to?
Looking forward to Footpad again in the novice chase over fences. It'll be very short in the day, but he should be well up to winning that kind of race, but at a much bigger price if he gets there, and he should get there. He has his ground. Manella Rocco currently 16-1 with us at Ladbrokes. Bypassed the Cheltenham Gold Cup and the Aintree National as well. Has had a wind up. John Just horses have been hitting form in recent weeks as well, so take a bit of a flyer with Manella Rocco at 16s for the Punchestown Gold Cup.
Good stuff. Let's move on to Saturday. We got Ayr, we got those trials at Newbury as well, but we'll start with Ayr. Coral Scottish Grand National first. Shane, start with you, and the prices goes to post at 405.
Yep, Vicente currently 9-1, the market leader. Tom 10-1 Ballyoptic, 10-1 Vintage Clouds, 10-1 Fagan, 12-1 Doing Fine, Glencairn View 14th, at 16s bar. Reminder, we're paying an extra place once again here for our customers in the Republic of Ireland. 5 places at a quarter of the odds.
Good stuff. Johnny Gordonelli, it'd be a pretty epic achievement if Fagan were to nick this.
Yeah, I think he's a very solid chance. We had the Dublin Racing Club meeting last week, and Tony Mullins is quite sweet on Glencairn View. A bit of a question mark about the ground, but he's probably not badly handicapped, and it'd be great for Tony to win her. But I think Fagan is really solid. He's run behind Black Horton the last day. Doesn't look too bad in terms of what Black Horton's had a good season. Loves the ground.
He's a well protected handicap.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's not been in handicaps at all. I'm not sure what they were planning with him, but he's run obviously as a novice at Cheltenham behind Harry. That was a huge run, and that was on nice ground, and he jumps really well. He's quite lightly raced over fences. Davy Russell riding him, the Grand National King. I think he's lots of positives there,
Yeah, and what a treble that would be, Irish, English and Scottish and National.
Absolutely. I remember Ruby nearly winning the 4 of them as a rider one time.
He was just on the line,
beating the short head,
Brendan, what do you fancy in Scottish National?
I think I like Ballyoptic. I certainly think he should be favourite. We like novices and handicaps, Tom. Now, he's £5 worse off with Vintage Clouds. He beat Vintage Clouds in Wetherby earlier in the year on filthy ground. Basically just outstayed him. I think Ballyoptic will relish this trip, and I think he'll confirm with Vintage Clouds. That Vintage Clouds form worked out pretty well. He's had a solid year. He would have been third in the RSA, but for a mistake at the last. That form's okay. Elegant Escape ran pretty well in Aintree, and Album Photo won in Punchestown. I think he's well handicapped. I think he'll stay. I think he should be favoured. 10-1 looks fair to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Scottish Champion Hurdle, Shane, you got a few prices for that. You're off 255.
Yep, I do indeed, Tom. 9-2 currently the market leader, Verdana Blue. Claimant taken Forgan 13-2. Beyond the Cloud 7-1. Chesterfield 7-1. 9-1 I'm a Game Changer, and it's 12 bar in the Scottish Champion.
What are you fancying this, Johnny?
I'm going to take a chance on Flying Tiger here.
Yeah.
He obviously won the handicap, the Fred Winter, last year. He won it in very good style. He was a big price, but he seemed to be a right type for those big field handicaps. He can be quite keen. He was very well backed to win the county at Cheltenham, and he was keen to post. I'm not really sure, but he went off 6s. Now he's way, way bigger for this race, and
this is a lesser race in the county, surely.
Yeah, now it's a pretty competitive race, but the guy claiming off him, he's an amateur. I don't know much about him, but he is taking 7 off him. If you can get him to settle, he's a big, big price, and I am a kind of a subscriber in sort of right horse, wrong day. Sometimes if a horse is very well backed and flops, don't be afraid to back him the next day at a far bigger price, because he was obviously doing something right. He's still quite lightly raced. His mark is, his run behind Elgin prior to Cheltenham wasn't bad, and if you can exonerate him the last day, he's a reasonable chance.
Yeah, well, everyone's allowed forgiveness of one indiscretion. Brendan, your thoughts on the Scottish Champion Hurdle?
Well, I've backed 2 horses in this time.
Okay.
So the Verdana Blue, who I put up for the Betfair Hurdle off the back of a luckless run in the hot Ascot handicap, she ran really well in the Betfair Hurdle. She only finished 9th, but I'd say she's probably traded the favourite in run. She travelled like a dream to the second last, just floundered in the mud. They had her in the Champion Hurdle. She was a late defector from that. So, I mean, this is how highly they rate her. She must have a good chance. Now, the only cloud on the clear blue horizon is pace, because there's 16 runners here.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of pace in the race. So she would like a decent pace to run at. But this brings me to my second selection, the only real front runner in the race, a beast by the name of Flashing Glance, trained by Tom Lacey. Tom Lacey is, I mean, I don't even know if you could say trainer in form. He's trainer in form. I mean, this guy is just tearing it up. He can't train a loser.
How do you spell that, actually?
Like P-H-O-A-R.
Like 4. Yeah. Like page 3, 4. Yeah. So, I mean, the boy Lacey is an unbelievable form. Now, this horse, he should get to the front. He's only a 5-year-old. He's a lot of jewellery on him. He wears a hood and a net muzzle or something.
It's a good way of putting it.
We do with some of them ourselves.
The last time, forget about the jewellery, he got Robbie Dunn, hands like a surgeon.
Okay, so he's got every... this is ticking a lot of Brendan Duke boxes here. Tom Lacey, Robbie Dunn, all the accoutrements.
He settled him in front. He beat a horse who then ran very well in an Ascot an Aintree handicap, finished again down the field, but travelled like a really good horse until running out of gas. I think the Flashing Glance will jump out and make off.
Good stuff. Okay, you're not going to get any calmer now, Brendan, because we're going to talk about the Greenham. Chance to give us the prices for this, Shane.
The Greenham, Tom?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the Greenham, this year's renewal, currently Expert Eye shade of odds on 4-5. James Garfield is at 9-2. Hey Gaman 5-1. 10-1 Fighting Irish. Connect is at 14-1. 18's Raid. Colster 50. Arrogant 100-1.
Okie doke. Brendan, cast your mind back to early October last year, and if I told you that this horse is going to be evens for the Greenham when he was 4-7 for the Dewhurst, are you forgiving him that run?
Well, I hope he goes and bolts up, because he did look a hugely exciting horse at Goodwood when he trounced James Garfield. But I think in terms of pure betting, taking even money about a horse who was pulled his race away in the Dewhurst isn't my idea.
Just say he was found lame after that race as well.
No, I mean, if you were ever forgiving Ben, but I mean, he'd done a lot of damage with his rank tendencies earlier. James Garfield just progressed throughout his 2-year-old campaign, ran a perfectly good race in the Breeders' Cup, had a brutal trip that day. I think he'll progress again at 3. I cannot see him out at 3. He looks a knocking each way bet at 5-1. Johnny,
you with Expert Eye? You forgiving Expert Eye?
Yeah, it's a great each way betting race. Obviously, Ladbrokes won't particularly like that, but at the same time you're taking on the favourite. There was a bit of negative word before the Dewhurst, that there were a few people kind of suggesting to me that he'd just gone a little bit OTT for the season. Do you remember he was supposed to run, I think, at the Curragh?
He didn't run,
He was probably supposed to run against Gustav Klim. No, he didn't run either, as it turned out. He was let off for the season. He's my idea of potentially the Guineas winner. But I'm not mad on Aidan's horses in general for the Guineas. And I'm not mad on his fillies for the Guineas necessarily, with Clemmy probably out. And I thought he was absolutely exceptional prior to that. He looked brilliant prospect. So I'm going to forgive him. And as you say, he's a far bigger price than he was in the Dewhurst.
Would you pop him up for the Guineas as well?
Yeah, I would.
Pre-race?
I would, yeah, because as far as I recall, there was nothing physically that suggested he shouldn't go on as a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
His trainer could certainly do with a proper classic contender. He certainly hasn't had many of them in recent seasons. But I loved him at Goodwood, actually, and I think he's a smashing prospect. And again, you're forgiving him a one back-end run when he was way too free. I think he's a class act, and I wouldn't be afraid to back him for the guineas. Like, he could be
currently 8-1.
Yeah, I thought he might be a little bit bigger than that, but I'm certainly looking at Saxon Warrior on that. I'd be amazed if he doesn't want further. If Gustav Klemko's there, he's probably my idea of the winner, but I wouldn't be putting you off this fella. I think he's very good, and give him another chance.
Yeah, and he'll surely shorten right up if he dots up in this. In the Fred Darling, there's Gavota and Tijanis at the top of the market, is it?
Yep, Gavota currently 7-4, Tom 100 at 30 then, Tijanis, Hickmaz at 13-2, 7-1, Natural, Dan Steve at 10s, and it's 11s bar.
Brendan, your thoughts on the Fred Darling?
I thought it looked tricky. Maybe to Janice. She was just a filly I liked last year.
Yeah.
She's a really good attitude. I think she'll progress this year. Her trainer made mention of the fact that she carries plenty of condition. Yeah. But he said she was carrying condition throughout the season.
All right, fair enough. So yeah, I heard she didn't grow that much, which would be a little.
Oh, really? Okay. There may be a bit of a flaw in my research there. That's interesting.
Sorry about that, Brendan. But she is. I mean, she's the best horse in the race, and she's not favourite. Gavota's favourite. So. Would you still stick with her, or you'd prefer to have a look at her, would you?
Yes, perhaps I'll have a look at her.
Okie doke.
Would you be a man for the old paddock inspections?
He's the king of paddock inspections.
I wouldn't say I'm the king. It's
Prince.
What does Willoughby call it? The dark arts. He doesn't rate it at all. But if you're gonna spend most of your life standing around the paddock, you might as well look at something. So.
I suppose, yeah. Instead of just looking at
Natalie,
people or whatever. But I like Gavota anyway. I think she was rock solid last year. She's very, very, very reliable, progressive. Travels great in her races. Yeah, she's the one for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Spring Cup then upcoming at 3:45. Another one of these big handicaps. Shane, how do you bet?
Yep, AFAC 13-2 in a very open renewal here, Tom. Tony Curtis 10-1. Tack Deers at 12s, along with Leah Ryder at 12s. Graphite Storm at 12s. Gilgamish at 12s, Humbert at 12s, and it's 14 spar, so reckon them on at 12-1.
Go on, give us a quick selection for the Spring Cup.
Well, we were quite sweet on Tack Deer at Doncaster.
Yes.
And I think we can forgive him, Tom. It was filthy ground.
Yeah, I think so.
Hard to make up ground off the pace. He could still be a very well handicapped. The obvious pace angle in this race is drawn on the stands rail. He's drawn 16, so it could well be the place to be. 12-1, we give him one more chance.
Yeah, fair enough. Johnny, who are you giving a chance?
Tack Deer's a fair chance. The Racing Post had a stable throw, Jessica Harrington, today, and one of her former inmates is my selection here, Red Label. My League of Ireland tips tonight are big prices, and my tips here today, some of them are big prices. This is the biggest of them all. He'll be 33-1, something like that. He's blinkers for the first time. If you remember, he dotted up in a 4-runner race at Goran on, I think, what was his Irish debut. I think he'd been with Luca Kamani. He came to Goran, very well-bred Dubawi horse. Yeah. Came to Goran, dotted up, travelled really well. He's a lot of class. Now, the last day at Lingfield, he ran okay. They've changed the headgear. He's dropping back in trip. So I don't think blinkers will be any problem for him. He'll go on the ground, no problem. If he actually isn't that heavily raced. If he retains ability, Marco Botti has him now. He's quite interesting at a price.
Red
Label.
Red Label. Let's move on to Sunday. Decent card at Navan. To start with the committed stakes at listed contests over the minimum trip. Shane.
Looking at tissue prices at the moment, Tom, Sioux Nation will hopefully go off around about 2-1. Tight enough between Sioux Nation and Fleet Review. We have Fleet Review in at 9-4, 4-1, then different league 8-1, two familiar. Speaking Colours 10s and 12-1 bar.
Is this the start of your nationwide tour of racecourses?
It is, yes.
Will you be looking forward to seeing what the like of different league in Sioux Nation look like?
Well, certainly for paddock judges, Sioux Nation is a pin-up of ours. It's a physical,
beautiful looking thing.
Unit. I'd say it takes plenty of getting fit though, and that would be my concern for him. He's got the penalty, what have you. So I'd be inclined to take him on. If a different league at around 4-1 would appeal to me. I mean, her form as a 2-year-old was strong. She should handle the ground. She travels in her races like a sprinter. Yeah, I think 4-1 different league would be okay.
Johnny?
This filly is a banker of a bet because of the ground. Now, I know it's been really warm, but I can't see both of Sioux Nation and Fleet Review being by Warfront and Scat Daddy the other way around, handling this ground, the two of them. She's very interesting because she was with Mathieu Pelusier.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure that he used to train where Joseph trains now. I think he had owning for a while.
There's definitely a connection to that area, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think the highest rated winner he's had in France, I think according to his website, is Group 3. So you'd imagine she was different league in terms of the horses that he's had. Now, he did okay with he used to train Leah Clare and a few horses that you might remember in Ireland. But her run behind Clemmy, I think Clemmy is brilliant. And I think she will definitely go on the ground. And I think if you can get anything like 4 or 5 to 1, I could see her going off favourite. She's my bet of the weekend.
Right, let's move on to the Salsaville Stakes, probably between Bye Bye Baby and Mary Tudor, who's really impressive. Even though she's still a maiden, she would fancy.
Oh, I would fancy her. Well, I mean, I really liked her in her first 2 runs last year. She looked a proper filly, and then my fingers were burnt in Naas. But it was the last week in September. You can forgive her filly that time of the year.
She was well packed that day too, wasn't she?
Well, by me, certainly, yeah. The boy McCreary has started the season in good form as well, and I think she's a filly who'll do well at 3. I'll go for Mary Tudor.
Would you be with or against Mary Tudor?
I'm going to side with Bye Bye Baby. I'm a little bit worried about Aidan's horses first time out this year. I mean, a lot of them have clearly needed the run, which is consistent with the way he's been training for years at this stage. And definitely the Galileos seem to need the run a bit, so there's a little bit of worry about Bye Bye Baby, but I think she's very good, and Ryan Moore is riding her. Her form behind Kenya. Kenya flopped at Leopardstown last weekend, but I think he's much, much better than that. She wasn't beaten that far by him in a back-end race. I think she's very good.
Yeah, and quick mention of the Vintage Crop Stakes, the return of Orders St. George. He'll be very, very, very short, won't he?
Around about 2 to 7, Tom. 13 to 2 then Clongowes and Lord Yates, 7 to 1, just the 3 of them this year.
He can be vulnerable first time out.
Well, he can
He
can indeed, Tom. I mean, what would you expect him to run into? Something in the low 110s to mid-teens. He's got a £5 penalty. Lord Yates, the very progressive horse last year, will have the run of the race. If he was as short as 2 to 7, he'd probably still be good enough. But if he was as short as 2 to 7, I'd probably take the other side and chance Lord Yates to beat him.
Would you be against him at 2 to 7?
I wouldn't back him at 2 to 7. Like, Aidan had a horse in Cork there last week that looked an absolute certainty. Drifted from 4s on to odds against and was well beaten, albeit on bad ground. And that was pretty sure that was Galileo as well. A lot of them need the run. This fellow will need the run. I'm not having a bet in this race, but I'm really looking forward to Vizirabad taking him on if he does in the Ask Gold Cup. I thought he was brilliant in Dubai. Now his trainer is talking about it might be a bit hot for him to go to. It's a bit like that's a topical,
very
topical thing now. But he is a bit worried about that. But I would like to see him take on Order St. George. I'm absolutely gutted when he was beaten in the race last year. I think this horse needs to be ridden a lot more prominently than they've been riding him actually in the race. I think just cut out the messing and ride him handy. He's fine and straightforward. He should win this, but it's a no-bet race.
Well, time now for our best bets of the weekend. We're going to start with you, Shane. So you just let us know what you fancy this weekend.
Yeah, fairly straightforward this weekend for me. Tom Vicente, I think, can make it 3 out of 3 in this year's Scottish Grand National for very much in form. Paul Nichols, don't forget the extra place in that race as well in our Republic of Ireland shops. Going to throw it in with Irish Road, the mare for Peter Atkinson in the Scottish Champion Hurdle, and also Connect, I think, can run a big race in the Greenham at Newbury.
Brendan?
I think I might do a patent this week,
patent,
Tom.
okay.
Yes, baby, because there'll be prices. The 255 in Air, Flashing Glance. The 405 in Air, Ballyoptic. And in the 445 in Limerick, Remy D, who gets first-time cheek pieces, an extra furlong, and a £9 swing in the weights with Navan Conqueror for pleasure. I think that'll be enough to swing it around.
Okie doke. Johnny?
Well, we all love a bit of pleasure, and Dukey invoked the spirit of page 3 earlier on. So for pleasure is actually one of my treble.
Head to head here.
Yeah, this horse is nicely backed at the off and bolted up at £9. I think that was a bad race with Navan. James Barrett does quite well with his flat horses. Capital Fund is very interesting at Limerick. Trained by Sheila Lavery, by Nathaniel, can only improve with time. Ran behind Abyssinian as a 9 to 1 chance at Leopardstown when last seen, and now is running in a 0 to 65. Yeah. I think could be very well handicapped. And my lock of the weekend is different league. So I'm going to go with the Trixie on the premise that 2 of them will definitely win. Well, it's just a question of whether 3 will or not.
Sorry to interrupt you, Johnny. If you see any cash for that Sheila Lavery horse, she's different gravy, isn't
Get
it?
on. Yeah.
She knows that they don't, as they say, they don't normally leave it behind.
Her horses respond well to cash.
They do. And it's called Capital Fund. What more do you want?
Brilliant.
For pleasure.
My 3 for the weekend, by the way, 5:40 at Nottingham. Gerald Mosse is going to have a winner with Al Mufriha, Expert Eye in the Greenham, and Leader Writer, and a bit of a price in the Spring Cup. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back every day next week.